All right, so we're going to run through just a quick tutorial on beveling the kind of the hand-tooled basket weave pattern on a belt. So I get comments every so often that people are confused because there's only a limited number of kind of reference lines, if you will, to bevel. So kind of the easiest way to explain this is at the end of the tooling, right? We're essentially looking at a central square that repeats itself all the way down the belt. So like with any time you actually tool this pattern, kind of keep that in mind, that for any given square, opposite sides you do the same thing, right? So you know, for example, this side, if we beveled away on this side, then we would come to this side and bevel away this direction. Same thing, now that we've beveled away, we've got straight edges here. These edges need to bevel in to give us the effect we're looking for. So I would bevel this line going this direction, and I would bevel this line going this direction. So for a belt, to me, the easiest way to bevel this and come out correct, it's very limited on the number of lines. So what I typically do is I'll pick, you know, the lower angled line here and pick a direction. You know, honestly, it really doesn't matter. You can pick away or to it, but let's say this line, we're going to bevel it this direction away. So we're going to move down to this next angled line, and the same thing. It's going to go away. It's going to repeat all the way down the belt, right? That lower angled line, you're going to do the same thing. Away, 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 right? Keep in mind, any lines that are directly beside each other are opposite. So if this line is beveled, you know, let's go back to this since that's the line we used. If this bevel is going this direction, away, then this line, because it's beside it, would come the opposite direction. So if we go all the way down the belt and all of these are away, 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 when we come back the other direction, all of the upper angled lines are going to go opposite. So they're going to come back this way and this way and this way. So if you really get confused, you could actually bevel one square, all four sides, the way that you normally would, you know, say you were doing a padfolio or something with a larger checkered pattern. Do one square, and basically you're trying to mimic that all the way down the belt. So if this side went away, then this side would go away, this side would come in, and this side would come in, right? So the effect you're looking for is two straight edges. You get that by beveling away from the line, and you get two that look like they're tucked under. So you get that by beveling back into the square. So this is away. I'll actually draw this on here. I don't know that you can see it. This one is going to be away. This one is going to be back in, and this one is going to be back in. So it's a fairly simple process. I'll take some different photos as I go down through here, or some little video clips. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pick a line. I'm going to bevel away or to me, whatever I decide, and I'm going to do that all the way down the belt. So when I come back, I'll take a couple of pictures or video clips of that process. One side of the line all the way down the belt so that you can see it just repeats all the way down. So as I said, I'm going to pick a line. I'm going to pick this line here. I'm going to bevel it away from me. Then I'm going to repeat that all the way down the belt, I don't know, 25 times or so, to set kind of the pattern, right? And once I have that first line beveled, then it should be fairly easy to determine, okay, does it need to be opposite? Does it need to feed into it? But we'll go through that, right? So the first line I'm going to do, and my hands are going to be a little bit in the way here. I'm trying to get it to where you can see it. The first line is going to be away. Okay, so this line is away. The next line is away. I'm going to come down one more line. That's going to go away. All right, the beauty of this pattern, I don't have to move my belt. I just keep feeding it down. And I'm down, going away. Same thing. Away. And away. You get the idea? I'm going to finish down this row and then we'll come back. Okay, so let's see if we can get kind of a, sorry, let me get my camera where I can see it. Okay, just like we talked about, I'm going to try to get a close-up here. So you can see, right, we basically did the exact same repeating angle all the way down the line of the belt, right? You've got two sections all the way down, go in this direction. You've got two sections coming back this way, right? So we basically picked a line, we beveled away. We picked the next line, we beveled away. We picked the next line, we beveled away. Same pattern, right, all the way down the belt. So now we're going to come back on, since we've already got this line, we know a line that adjoins this one has to go the opposite, right? So I'm going to pick this line and I'm going to go back this direction, and I'm going to come to this line, back this direction. Opposite of this bevel every time, back this way. When we're done with that, we're halfway done rough beveling the belt. So I'm going to bevel these. I'll do the first one just so you can see it. Let me flop the belt around. So we've already got a bevel here coming back this direction. And just so you know, I'm using a steep beveler, a Berry King. Probably, I don't know, this is maybe considered an extra steep. They're my favorite. You can always come back with a little more of an angle on a beveler if you want to flatten that out a little bit. It's my preference, right? So I take care of that when I come back and actually start detailing these lines. But for my initial bevel, I use an extra steep. So I'm going to come back on this line and I'm going to bevel away. I'm going to repeat that process all the way down the belt. So right, so opposite of this line comes this way, this line goes away. So I'm just going to move down the belt, same pattern all the way down. Same thing, just going to keep moving down the belt. I'll tell you, everybody does this pattern a little bit different. I don't worry so much on my initial bevel. The process I use, you know, everybody uses a little bit different process. I do the initial bevel, excuse me, then I come back and actually do my detail work, and I come back and do a second bevel over all of these lines to clean everything up. So my first pass, I'm not so worried, right? If I'm not quite all the way to this intersection, it's okay. I'm going to clean that up later. The goal here is to get the initial bevel in so I can start the detail process. So I'm going to finish down the belt and I'll come back in just a minute. Okay, so we've gone down. We've made our first two bevels all the way down the belt, right? Same line across the belt. One side goes away, one side is back the opposite. This side's away, back opposite. Same pattern all the way down. So the top half of this line, if you will, is away all the way down the belt. It doesn't change, right? The bottom half of this line is back the opposite direction. All the way down the belt, we don't change that pattern. So we're actually 50% done, right? We're halfway through with the initial bevel, which sets the shape of your individual squares, right? To achieve that, at least start achieving that look of a woven pattern when it's all done. So our next section to bevel, we have the same line going the opposite direction, right, all the way down the belt. So for this particular pattern, we know, let me see if I can get a little closer in with the camera. Okay, so we know that these are set. We know this pattern, if these two edges are beveled in, then we know these opposite edges have to bevel away. So this one has to go away, this one has to go away this direction. We want two straight edges, and we want two beveled in inward direction edges to achieve this look. So what I'm going to do now, I'll just start here at this top position. This edge is beveled in, so I know this edge needs to bevel away. So I'm going to bevel this away. I'm going to bevel this line away, this line away. I'm going to continue that all the way down the belt. Away, 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 because I've already got two beveled edges going in. That's the max number of edges going in on this pattern. The other two edges have to go away, opposite, right? So this goes out, this goes out. This gives me a very straight, hard line, and it makes the illusion that this piece of leather in this square is coming under this one, out, over, and down under this one. So once we detail it, you get more of that effect, but this is how we set the initial pattern, if you will. So I'm going to start here. I'll try to do a couple on camera, and then I'm going to pause it. I'm going to finish down this line, and we'll come back and we'll do the opposite side, and you'll see very quickly you've got your pattern set. So, you know, whether you go the route I'm telling you or pick a square and tool it up the way it should be, two edges in, two edges out, and do the exact same thing all the way down the belt, you'll end up with the same end result, right? I just know in my head that if I pick this line to go away, I'm going to repeat it all the way down. If I pick this line to come in, I'm going to pick it all the way down. And ultimately, I want to end up with the squares in the middle with two edges beveled in and two edges beveled out. So let me grab my tool, and we'll tool a couple of these real quick, and then we will come back after a quick pause. So I'm going to pick this little partial. I've got a beveled edge coming in, so here I'm going to go away. So I've got my tool in, just a simple little away. I'm going to come down to this angle and away. This one and away. This one going away. Same pattern all the way down the belt. Okay, so I've gone completely down the belt. Kind of the same thing. So we picked a line and we went away. We picked a line and we went away. We picked a line and went away. We repeated that all the way down, this same line in the pattern, all the way down the belt, right? So the only line we have left is the opposite line, the opposing line, you know, that sits next to it. Any line that sits right next to a straight line has to go the opposite direction in this pattern. So every one of these is going to have to come back this direction, right? Away here, and away here, and away here. So I spin my belt around to get position on it, and we're basically going to, I'll do the first couple on camera. This one's going to go away because I'm already beveled in. Anytime I have a line coming in, I have to have a line at a 90-degree angle going away. So I'm going to pick this one, and we're going to go away. I'm going to pick this one and go away. Right? All of a sudden, it's going to pop. It's going to be very visible. Right now we have the pattern. If I can get that close enough to really see it, the pattern's going to start jumping out, right? That's away, that's away, that's in, and that's in. And it should be the exact same all the way down because we're doing the same pattern all the way down the belt. So I'm going to finish this line out, and then we'll come back and take a look. Okay, so we beveled essentially both sides of this line all the way down, opposing, and we've beveled both sides of this line all the way down, opposing. So now we get the shape that we're looking for, right? We have a rough square, if you will, of leather that comes out from under this piece, over and back under this piece. So same thing here. This piece comes under, goes under this piece here, and then comes out from under this piece here. So you get the woven illusion, if you will, that you have a lot of pieces of leather woven together. So that's going to become more and more obvious as we start to bevel this or detail this, I guess, and then come back with our decorative cuts to finalize the pattern. But my next step is going to be to come in. Lots of folks use different tools to do this. This is actually, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if that'll focus. This is actually a Barry King vertical. I don't know if this is, I guess this is considered like a vertical, maybe a thumbprint. It's not really a pear shader, so I would say it's more of a thumbprint. It's pretty small. Unfortunately, Barry doesn't number his tools, but it's a Barry King tool. I use this one a lot. A lot of times I'll use this. It's a Barry King as well, but I'll use this. You can kind of see the difference if I hold them up. That doesn't focus all that well, but this is kind of what I started. When I started doing this pattern, I used this vertical, I don't know if it's, I really don't know what he calls it. It's really kind of a thumbprint or kind of a leaf liner, but I used it for quite some time. Ultimately, I ended up going with a much finer, kind of same general pattern, much finer. I can get a little bigger variation in my pattern, kind of as I run down this line to give it some texture. I'll kind of show that in a minute, but you know, basically what we want to do is come back and detail this line to give it almost some ripple effect. Kind of looks like leather's maybe bunched up a little bit. Just give it, you know, take away that smooth, you know, raw leather look and actually give it a little bit of detail. So I'll come back in just a minute. We'll do a little bit of detailing, and pretty quick this pattern will be ready to oil up, you know, dye it however you want to, and finish it out. Okay, so you can see, I hope you can see, I've basically gone down through with the shader, and I'm just following the bevels at this point, right? I've already set my shape, so if I have a bevel away, I'm following with my shader and just lightly tapping all the way down that bevel line to give it a little bit of detail, right? I want to give it some texture. I don't want to end up obviously with a big square that's just nice and flat on top. That doesn't look like anything that's natural, right? So we're going to give it some detail. Every bevel line we're going to follow. I'm going to come back and bevel the insides of these squares on this pass. And then we'll be to the point where we can go back, clean up any of our bevel lines to kind of crisp things up a little bit, and then we'll go back and put our decorative cuts in, and then for this pattern you're essentially done, right? You're to the finish point. We want to obviously do any dye work, oil the belt up well, get it sealed. You know, I use tan coat, that's my preference. Once that's good and dry, I go back and actually do my stitching. Sorry, let me back up. I laminate the belt. Currently, there's no liner on the belt, you can see. So I'll go back and actually glue up my liner, go ahead and stitch the belt up, and then work on edges, and then work on final assembly. This particular belt's a Ranger belt, so a few extra steps in there with billets, but you know, still, if you haven't made a Ranger belt, you know, maybe reach out and try one. They're not difficult. Get your measurements kind of right. There's Don Gonzalez has some pretty good pointers for measuring for a Ranger belt. So feel free to go check out his site. Some really good information. He also has some videos on tooling this pattern that could be beneficial to some folks. But I don't think he talks about doing this pattern on an actual belt. I'm going to come back now. I'm going to use the same shader, right? I'm using this small Berry King. I call it a vertical thumbprint. It may have a different name, but that's what I call it. And I'm going to come back and just kind of work down these bevels and kind of add some texture, right? I'm going with the bevel, so I'm kind of giving it some additional bevel, if you will, just a little bit of texture. All the way down the belt, and I'll come back in just a few minutes. Okay, so we've added some detail down all the bevel lines, right? We just followed our bevels from our original kind of rough bevel, if you will. We've added some texture. I don't know if you can really pick that up. You know, you don't have to add a ton, I'll be honest. A little bit goes a long way, but the goal is to add a little bit of texture to those lines and give each one of those squares a little more of a rounded, kind of wrapped look. Now I'm going to go back with my beveler. Once again, you know, I'm using a Berry King, fairly steep beveler. Let's see if it'll catch kind of the angle of that bevel. I don't know if that's really showing, but you can see it's fairly steep for the bevel. I'm going to go back and clean up all these lines, right? So I'm going to follow them the same direction I originally beveled, just to clean up any tool marks, give it a little extra depth, kind of down in those creases. To give it the illusion that everything's really either going under or over a specific piece of this leather. So I'll run down through there, and we'll come back in a minute, and then we'll be ready for a little bit of moisture. The leather's getting a little bit dry, and doing our final cuts on the pattern, and we'll be done with this tooling on this belt. Okay, so I've gone through, you know, if we kind of back up, we started beveling, right, to set our pattern. We walked all the way through and did a rough bevel. We went back with a shader and kind of gave each bevel line some texture, right, coming back across the square. I just went back with my beveler and I basically cleaned up all my bevel lines. Some folks don't think this is necessary. I can tell you if you'll get in the habit of, when you're essentially done tooling a belt, or any pattern for that matter, and if you'll go back with a beveler or a lifter or a crowner and clean up all your edges, spend 20 minutes going back cleaning up that piece of work, the difference is night and day. You may not see it all that well on this belt with this camera, but in person, the same exact pattern, cleaned up in the end with another pass with a beveler. I have not done my borders yet, but I'm fixing to go back and actually re-bevel my borders. The difference is unbelievable. So it will take your work from pretty good to pretty amazing very quickly. So spend that extra time, go back, clean up all your lines. I do it on my floral tooled belts. I do it on my geometrics, more so on the borders for the geometrics, but this pattern, per se, this hand cut woven pattern, there's a lot of beveling, right? So it takes 20, 30 minutes to go back and clean everything up, but it makes such a difference. It makes everything a little more crisp, gives it a little more depth. I don't know if I get too close here, it's probably going to lose the focus, but it gives you much more depth to your tooling. So this is a 9, 10 ounce Herman Oak belt blank, so you can get fairly deep, but if you're working with say a 4 ounce, 5 ounce, leather, fairly thin, that extra pass makes such a difference. So, at this point, I'm going to go back. I'm going to re-bevel my borders just to kind of crisp them up. If I had a tool that kind of got into a border somewhere, I don't see much on this one, but as habit, I'm going to go back, re-border or re-bevel my borders. Then I'm going to add a little moisture back to the belt and let it sit for a few minutes, and we're going to go back and do some decorative cuts, and this pattern is going to be done. So let me clean up my borders quickly and put some moisture back in this belt, and I'll come back and we'll do a few decorative cuts. It takes a few minutes on this pattern. It's pretty intensive on the cuts, but the final result is well worth it. So give me a few minutes. I'll get this thing cleaned up and put some moisture in it, and we'll come back and do our cuts. Okay, so I've gone back and actually re-beveled my borders. So I don't know how well you can really tell, but we've got pretty decent depth. The color on, I probably could have let this leather dry just a little more for some additional burnish. But to be honest, this belt, the customer wants it in black. So this entire thing is going to be dyed in Fibing's Pro dye in a black color. So seems like a lot of work going into detailing for a belt in black, which will hide the majority of the work that you've done. But it doesn't really matter what color you're going to end up with. Your process should be the same, right? There's no sense in trying to go cheap on the tooling just because it's going to be in black, because if somebody does inspect the belt up close, they're going to see the level of detail in the belt. So obviously, for me personally, the majority of the belts I do are in some different shades of brown or just an oil finish. So the more detail you get into it, the more you get out of it, obviously, and the better your belt's going to look. So I'm going to go back now. I'm going to add some moisture into this. I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes and really soak in, and then I'm going to go back with my swivel knife and make some decorative cuts. And I'll just tell you, all I'm going to do is basically follow the texture in these individual blocks, right? So I'm going to find a line that's beveled back this direction. I'm going to make some small cuts just to give it some texture, give it a little bit of an area to grab some antique when we finish this thing out. And when we're done, you end up with a really nice, very detailed looking belt. This belt pattern, honestly, when you get comfortable doing it, is probably, I'm going to say, about 45 minutes, right, from start to stop, to go through, completely tool this thing out, cut it in, tool it up, get it ready to go for finishing. It's probably, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. You can actually do these fairly quick. Once you get comfortable, you'll make mistakes, right? So I get folks all the time that, tell me, hey, I made a mistake cutting, I made a mistake, beveling, had to throw a blank away. I still do it, right? I can go 6 months and not make a mistake, and then I can trash, 3 blanks, within 6 weeks, from, essentially not paying attention, right? You get so comfortable, oh, I can tool that. I don't even have to really think about it. That's when you'll probably make a mistake. Don't worry about it. A lot of the mistakes that you make, you might be able to blend out, and nobody can tell other than you. You'll always know it's there. But sometimes you just have to grab one and throw it in the trash and say, hey, I'm probably not going to make that mistake again for a while. So this exact pattern, 2 weeks ago, I cut one in, didn't even really think about it. And when I was done, I went back and looked and wasn't paying attention. And I actually extended one of these cuts over my border, not paying attention. I don't know. Maybe I was watching something on the TV or listening to music and not paying attention, but I cut right through the border. For me, maybe in the end you wouldn't have seen it, but I try not to send out, products with, what I know is a considerable blemish. So I'll finish the belt out. I'll sell it as a blemish belt. No big deal. Grabbed a new blank, recut the customer's belt, and carried on. So don't let mistakes get you. That's how we learn. That's how we remember. And that's how we get better. So I'm going to add some moisture. I'm going to come back and do some decorative cuts, and we'll be done with this belt. All right, so I'm going to come back and add some decorative cuts now. Don't overthink it. You need some random, varying lengths of cuts, just to kind of simulate some wear, just some additional texture. Probably the biggest thing is to, stay in line with your edges, right? You want to stay very parallel with those and not get off at an angle, or it is very, obvious at that point. So you don't have to get crazy by any means. Just some cuts all the way down the pattern, right? We're following our bevel lines again, just to give it a little bit of texture, something to grab some antique when we finish this thing out. Kind of change your length as you run down through here. And just keep in mind when we come back from the other direction, if it's short on one side, we want it a little bit longer on the other side, so they kind of oppose each other. Shouldn't take all that long to run down through here and cut up this entire belt. Right, like I said, don't get in the habit of overthinking it. We just want some lines, and I promise you, when you're all done, they'll look pretty good. Even though you think, oh my gosh, those look the same, by the time you're all done, they kind of all blend together. So just like that. This is, like I said, this is a Ranger belt. It's about a 42-inch belt as measured. So Not near as much tooling as you would on a standard belt, but still decent, right, for this size belt. So I'm just going to come in here and add some different length lines, some cuts. All we're doing is trying to add, texture to the end result, right? When it's all done, we want some stuff to catch antique and kind of draw your eye away from, something fixed. So we want you to be mesmerized. You want the customer to be, oh my gosh, that's amazing. This is a super easy pattern to do, relatively quick in comparison. I do several patterns in floral that, on average are probably going to take, 3 hours maybe to tool up. This is obviously a much quicker pattern, but at the end of the day, it looks really good. So super clean. Not everybody's a floral fan. You're not going to change that. So, it gives you an offering to offer to customers it's still custom by all means, but it's not one of the florals out there. So, or even something that you drew up yourself. So, completely different look. So, once again, I'm just going back the opposite way now, adding some different lines in to give this thing a little bit of character when we're all done with it. I can't stress, don't sweat the small things. These lines when you're all done, honestly, even if they were the same all the way across, it's not like your customer's going to be like, oh my gosh, those lines all are the exact same. It's not a stamp that we're using. It's kind of our judgment as we're tooling this thing and detailing it up. Sorry, my desk is a little bit messy currently, but we just run down through here, add some cuts, something that's going to catch a little bit of color as we finish this belt out. By all means, you don't have to get carried away. Don't need 42 cuts on every line. We just want something to kind of give it a little bit of an individual look, right? So every one you do is going to be a little different, but you'll get into a habit where you kind of line these things out very similar, I guess, the more you do. So you just kind of get in that habit. So, force yourself every once in a while to vary your cut pattern, long and short. Do you do 3? Do you do 5? Do you do 4? Don't get in the habit of doing the exact same on every single one. Some of them you're going to be. You just can't help it. Some of them you're going to say, oh, I wish I'd have done that a little different. I promise you, when it's all done and antiqued up and finished out, the belt, I promise, will look good.